I go on spurts where I travel a lot for my job. This was during one of those times. Being on the road a lot was kinda lonely, but I sorta liked it that way. I'm able to see a bunch of new places and explore around. Usually my company puts us in a decently nice hotel. I believe I was staying at a Hampton Inn or something like that when this incident occurred. On my second night at this particular place, I remember catching sight of a man sitting in one of the hotel lobby chairs as I walked in the front after coming back from work. He was average height and probably in his late 40s or early 50s. He was the only one in the lobby besides myself and the worker at the front desk. As I walked by on my way back to the elevator, I gave him a nod and he didn't respond. Not a hand wave or a nod back in response. He just watched as I walked to the elevator. I just thought, okay, whatever, and proceeded up to my room. I was more focused on the Netflix show I was going to be watching the rest of the night anyways. I got up to my room and threw off my work clothes and settled down to relax and watch my show. A couple hours went by, and I remembered I had to send an email for work tonight that up until that point I completely forgot about. I looked around for my laptop and realized I must have forgotten it in the car. I was annoyed that I'd have to get up and go all the way back downstairs, but I needed to get the email sent and all the documents were on that laptop. I put my shoes on and made my way downstairs into the car. When I got into the lobby, I noticed that same guy was still sitting in the same spot where I had seen him earlier. It had been maybe at least 2.5 hours. I don't know anyone who sits in a hotel lobby that long, not moving. He was staring at me again as I walked through. I didn't acknowledge him this time, and just focused on getting my laptop. I walked out and back in with the laptop, this guy staring at me the whole time. I went back upstairs and sent the email real quick so I could get back to my show before I had to go to sleep. About an hour later, I shut everything off and went to bed. I surprisingly can fall asleep pretty fast in hotels, so I was out like a light. I woke up some hours later to a knocking noise. I glanced over at the clock, and it was 2:30 in the morning. It took me a minute to realize that the knocking sound was actually coming from the door to my room. I thought, who could be knocking at my door at 2:30 in the morning? I was annoyed. No one should have been there, and I had to be up early for work in the morning. I got up and opened the door. It was that guy from the lobby I'd seen those 2 times earlier. I asked him what he wanted and that I needed to be up early. He said he was sorry and that he was the maintenance guy that needed to check on something inside my room. He sounded convincing, and I actually almost believed him for a second. But he wasn't wearing any kind of name tag or anything. Just an old gray shirt with jeans. I asked him to show me a badge or something and asked why the hotel lobby didn't at least call up to me first. He didn't respond and actually started trying to walk past me and into the room. I blocked him with my body and told him to get out of here before I called the police. He started pushing me back into the room now, still saying that he needed to check on something in there. I guess we were making more noise than I thought, because someone in an adjacent room came out into the hallway and asked what was going on. When the guy heard that, he stopped and walked out down the hall back toward the elevator. I told the other guy what had happened and how I'd seen that guy twice before in the lobby. He said he also saw him down there and thought he was giving off a weird vibe. I was tired and had to get up soon, so I just tried to fall back asleep. The next morning, I told the lady at the front desk about what had happened the previous night. She pulled up the security cameras in the hallway and it basically showed everything. She said that guy was not an employee at the hotel and he wasn't even a customer there. He was just some random guy who walked in and sat down in the lobby. Why he targeted me, I can't say for sure, and who knows what would have happened if he managed to push me back into the room before that guy across the hallway saw. At the very least, I probably would have been robbed. I'm just glad I never found out. I was staying in a hotel a few months back for work. I was really trying to save money, so let's just say I wasn't staying at the nicest of places. It was good enough for what I had to do, I suppose. Anyways, I woke up one morning to police cars and news trucks surrounding the parking lot. This place was a motel, so the exit of the room led straight outside so you could see the parking lot directly from the room as you stepped outside the door. It seemed as if a lot of other people in the hotel were outside their doors too, wondering what was going on. It was such a huge scene. There were people from the local news station down there trying to interview me and a couple other people. At this point, I still had no clue what was going on. I was filled in with some of the details, however. Apparently, there was a guy who broke out of jail in Alabama and was on the run. He was serving a 75-year sentence for murder and kidnapping. Coincidentally, the guy was staying in the room directly below mine for the entire time that I had been there. It gets weirder, however. The man was accompanied by a female who turned out to be a former corrections officer, and the two seemed to have developed a romantic relationship while he was in prison. They were also illegally in possession of 5 firearms, and according to one of the local deputies, were preparing for a shootout. The two got into a car chase with police that morning, and were drove off into a ditch. The female corrections officer committed suicide before she could be detained, whereas the man was taken back to Alabama. The man's name is Casey White, for anyone who wants to look further into his case. That's about all I was told. Anyways, even though I didn't have direct confrontation with these people, it's kinda crazy to think they were literally staying right below me and I had no idea. I was a kid back when this happened, maybe 10 years old. My family would commonly take a trip somewhere over summer break. Obviously, that meant we would be staying at hotels at least some of the duration of the trip. I remember we were on our way to the beach in Florida, but were stopping for the night somewhere in North Carolina. My parents would usually let me and my younger sister go down to the hotel pool whenever the hotel we stayed at had one. Since we were both still young, either my mom or dad would come down there with us. My mom was down at the pool with us this night. At one point, she got up and walked out to go to the bathroom or something, but she told us she would be right back. We were the only ones in the pool until some guy walked in. He came in and immediately came over to where me and my sister were. My mom wasn't back yet, and he started talking to us as if we were friends. I don't remember all the specific details about what he said, but I remember he seemed really friendly. My mom walked back in, and the man got up from his crouched position and walked over to one of the pool chairs in the corner. My mom gave him a funny look, but didn't say anything immediately. We got out of the pool at one point, and went over to talk to our mom about something. That's when she asked us what the man was saying to us. Being 10, I probably just said something about him being nice, although looking back now, he was asking a couple really weird questions, if I can remember correctly. I think my mom kinda caught the vibe that this guy was probably up to no good, so she told us it was time to head upstairs to the room for the night. We went up, showered, and we all started getting ready for bed. I remember that my parents had called down to the front desk, asking for some extra towels. After about 20 minutes, my dad went over to look through the peephole to see if they were just left outside by the door by any chance. Well, when my dad looked out, he jumped back slightly, as if he was startled by something. My mom could tell that something was wrong. My sister and I were watching TV, so I wasn't paying a ton of attention. My parents stood in the little hallway, talking for a couple minutes. Then they told us it was time for bed. I didn't really think much of it at the time, and forgot about the whole thing by morning. One day, years later, for some reason, that event resurfaced in my memory, and I decided to ask my mom about what had happened. She told me that when my dad looked out the peephole, he saw a person's eye pressed up against it, trying to somehow look inside. When they were talking, she asked him to describe the person as best he could, and his description matched that of the guy we had seen in the pool earlier. Thankfully, we never saw that guy again, and ended up having a fun trip that year.